love living at home. I remember hearing about this program when I moved to Ithaca 5 years ago, and was intrigued by it. And I'm sure she can shed a lot of light on what sounds like a very admirable program.
Thank you so much for having myself and Love Living at Home to present today. I also have Jim Darnieder here that's going to help with the presentation. He is the chair for our Marketing and Communications Committee.
Cheryl, you all set?
Yes.
Okay. So hello, everybody. My name is Jim Darnieder, and I am the chair of the Marketing and Communications Committee. I'm also a member of Love Living at Home and a volunteer in a number of ways. I think what I'd like to do, first of all, is to say thanks again for having us present to you. It's been, I think, Jim Quest and I presented to your group about 4 years ago. So we were very young at the time, and now we've got a lot under our belt, and we're happy to share that with you. So Cheryl, if you could forward to the agenda. So what I want to do in just a minute is to share a slideshow with you. It takes about 5 minutes, but it encompasses kind of our first 4 years. We just celebrated our 5th anniversary, and we are updating the slideshow for that. But the 4-year slideshow will give you a real good idea of what we've been up to. So our basic mission is to, for our members, to have them get help, to give them help, and to keep people connected in the community. We're going to share with you the impact on our members, some programs and services. We'll go through membership as far as what it takes to become a member and the costs and so on. We're going to talk a bit about volunteering because it's a key part of all of what we do. And then at the end, we'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. So Cheryl, with that, could you show the slideshow? Yeah, you better exit out of that or we're going to get other videos. So that'll give you just a little bit of an indication. Hank, I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to update the slideshow before this, but we will get your picture in there as soon as we can. So Cheryl, can you go to the next slide? So Love Living at Home is a 501c3 not-for-profit in Tompkins County. And we service our members, adults that are 62 years or older. And what we do is we give help where needed, and that is a very broad category. And we also provide choices for our members to stay connected to for everybody's overall health. So the way this whole thing got started was about 15 years ago in Beacon Hill in Boston. There were a group of older adults who were talking, and they said, you know, we want to stay in our home or apartment or condo or wherever they live, but sometimes we need some help. And that could be physical help. It could be emotional support. So they also were socializing together, and they wanted to do more of that. So they formed the very first village and organized a whole bunch of volunteers to help support them. And in fact, some of the members were also volunteers. And the idea took off. It took off to such a point where today there's between, Cheryl, I don't know if you have a number off the top of your head, but it's between 200 and 300 in the country. It's also in Australia, and there's some in England. There's also between 100 and 200 more in development and various stages right now. So this is definitely a trend that's sweeping across the nation. How we got started here with Love Living at Home is Jim and Leslie Quest and my wife, Kathy Garner, got together after watching Brian Williams. His parents live in New Canaan, Connecticut. And on one of his nightly TV shows, he had a segment where he featured the village in New Canaan. And they said, you know what, this might work in Ithaca. So they got together, formed a steering committee, and after 2.5 years of planning, they opened the doors. And you saw at the Lab of Ornithology, we had our kickoff meeting. So Cheryl, can you forward one? So why do we exist? Well, as we all know, and we don't like it, but we age. And with that comes a couple of things. It comes with physical limitations that increase over time. You know, maybe we're not as strong as we used to be. Maybe we can't bend over because we've got a back problem or a knee problem. We don't particularly like to get on ladders anymore. So there are things that happen in our lives that we might need some help with. So that's one thing. The other thing is our social circle changes. And this happens slowly, and we kind of tend to fill it with things. But sometimes, you know, especially those of us who are retired, have some extra time on our hands. And we also have friends that may have moved away. Maybe they've retired, moved to Florida or wherever. And our social circle shrinks as time goes, it tends to shrink as time goes on. And our family situation, you know, may be changing at the same time. We also all want a purpose in life to continue, and that is to pursue interests, may or may not be associated with what our career was. And we also want to share experiences with others, a sense of community. And 90% of older Americans want to stay in the home or condo or apartment where they live. One of our members came up with a very great quote, and early on, she said, you know, I really like this organization because I get to stay in my house with my rules. And I thought that was a great quote. Also, sometimes we're not sure who to call for help. And as we all know, life throws us all kinds of curveballs, and Love Living at Home is designed to help with those curveballs. So Cheryl, if you could go one more. So our concept basically is one call does it all. You can call the office, and if you've got some fix-it kind of job that needs some help, or somebody needs some emotional support with a phone call, and that's been especially true with the pandemic. So we provide programs and services through our volunteers. And we have between 60 and 70 active volunteers in our program. So our staff is a total of 1.5 people. So Cheryl Jewell is our executive director, and she has an assistant, Cassie Biesmer, who is a part-time person that helps coordinate all of our services. But it's a matchup kind of situation where a member will call with a request, and then the staff matches up a volunteer to fulfill that request. And it's very, very, very rare that we can't help out somehow. Sometimes they're a little bit more than we can handle. It might be somebody wants us to reseal their driveway. Well, we're really not in the business of doing that. So what we can do, though, is we can refer our member to some service providers that we have vetted, and they can help provide a quote for that particular kind of service. So forward, Cheryl. So what we found during the pandemic is this particular formula works really well. Our request for services went through the roof. Because people weren't getting out and about, so they needed us to do grocery shopping. They still needed rides to their medical appointments and some personal care things. Maybe somebody wanted to get their hair done, or just go visit a friend. So just calling the office, the staff, again, arranges those kind of requests with a volunteer. Members were able to stay connected. We initially, right away, started Zoom programs. And in fact, it turns out that the attendance at the Zoom programs was greater than we had before we were in Zoom. You know, you didn't have to deal with driving and parking and all of that kind of stuff. It was just easier to get online. All of our committees and board continue to meet regularly on Zoom. And again, in fact, we had better attendance, I believe, in our Zoom sessions. We also right away started a newsletter called Connections. And it has really been a great way for our community to literally stay connected, and thus the name. I kept our members informed, especially early on with the COVID situation. Once the vaccines were available, the newsletter kind of helped guide our members as to where they could get their vaccinations. If a member needed a ride to a vaccine appointment, they called the office, and the office arranged all of those things. And it also gives our members links to entertainment options. It is open not only to members, but also the broader community. We have a very good hit rate as far as openings in the newsletter. You're free to sign up on our website for our mailing list, and you will be included in any of those. It's our next one comes out on Saturday. So if you're interested, jump online on our website and sign up on our mailing list if you're not already on it. So some of the programs you saw in the slideshow, there's a few others here that might be, the printing might be a little hard to see on your screen, but we have a women's walking group. We did a tour of Taconic Falls with one of the staff members of the park. In the upper right-hand corner, we have a picture of a picnic that we did. This is our first post lockdown event that we did outside on a porch. And you can see other gatherings that that we've had over time. So go ahead, Cheryl. I think our slides got out of sync here a little bit. Go forward one more. And one more. Okay, so this slide should be a little bit more forward, but we'll back up. So the reason for our programs fundamentally is that we are trying to avoid social isolation for our members as time goes on. And as I mentioned before, our social circle changes, and sometimes we kind of like just put up with it, but we get more secluded. And social isolation is the third leading cause of death of older adults. They become depressed, that leads to other issues. So what we want to do is to keep our members connected. Members want to share interests and they want to share experiences. So we do all kinds of different programs. Last year we had around 150 different programs that we held on various topics. Some were informative, some were just for fun. We call our happy hour 5 o'clock somewhere. And also we try and get out and about. We have a men's walking group, we have a women's walking group. You're free again to go on to our website calendar and to take a look at the programs. They're all posted there, and take a look and see what might be coming up. So Cheryl, you want to back up? There you go. So yeah, let's talk about services. So services, we don't have a specific list of services that we do. And the reason for that is that life, again, throws us lots of curveballs, and some of them are very unusual. So rather than have a specific list, we basically try and do whatever the member needs. And if we can't do it, then we'll find somebody who can do it. So the two top ones you see there, actually rides, transportation is our biggest requested service that we have. And that can be rides anywhere. It can be to a medical appointment. It could be to the hairdresser. It could be to the airport. It could be to a friend's house. And what's unique about our services is that it actually enhances the connection between the member and the service provider. And they really become a close-knit kind of situation. I'll give you an example. We have an older gentleman who is in the upper half age-wise, and he lives by himself, and he wanted another male companion to maybe go to lunch with every once in a while. So these two have been at this, I think, for a good couple of years, and every month they go out to a different restaurant and just hang out together. And so these two, it's just the same two guys get together. So the relationship is what ends up building over time. And it doesn't really take a whole lot of time. So some of the other services, Cheryl did a lot of shopping for members who weren't getting out, check-in phone calls. She did literally hundreds of check-in phone calls to make sure that members were okay, that they had what they needed, that they were doing okay. Again, we provide referrals with anything that life throws at you. So if you can go to the services. So here's a few examples. Upper left-hand corner, we've had a number of programs for tech help, and basically that's Ithaca College students who come to a particular site, and we bring our electronics. If we're having trouble with our iPad or our cell phone or our computer, they do their best to try and help out, and that's been extremely popular. We do some physical things. We've helped move some things. Gardening help has become very popular. And unique requests. Somebody's footpath in the wintertime was really bad, so we came out and cleared that out. You can see Hank DeLay is one of our transportation guys. He's giving a ride, and the lower right corner is somebody who put some furniture together. So it's again whatever life throws at us. So Cheryl, go ahead. Okay, so let's talk about membership a little bit. So why do people join? Well, all kinds of reasons. But the three fundamental reasons is to get help, to give help, translation volunteer, or to stay connected. And these are the three things that fundamentally we deliver on a daily basis. But people join for a combination of these reasons. For example, I joined for the give help part. I wanted to volunteer because I had extra time. I don't need to get help because in fact, I'm one of the handymen. So I don't need that particular part right now, but I know I will down the road. And I've also attended a number of programs to stay connected. And prior to moving to Ithaca about 10 years ago, when I moved, I didn't have a whole lot of people that I had connected with. I was still kind of working, going back and forth and so on. But I did connect in one of our programs. We had an outing at the Cornell football game. And in that, I met a member who happens to love sports, as I do. And so we've gone to basketball games. He loves Cornell wrestling. And he called me one day and he said, you know what, you want to go to a wrestling match with me? I said, John, I haven't been to a wrestling match since I was in high school. And he said, well, good reason to go. So I did and had a great time. And it was really a lot of fun. But now we go regularly to different Cornell sporting events. People join for different reasons. Some need the get help part right away, and we're happy to do that. But it's really a combination of the get help, give help, and connections that is unique to everybody, and everybody joins for a slightly different reason. So our membership dues, we do have membership dues. They cover not quite half of our budget. We did a lot of research originally when we opened up to make sure that the fees that we were charging were reasonable. And they are like right in the middle of the pack nationally as far as what the other villages charge. We offer flexible payment plans, and we also do not want our membership fee to be a barrier to participation. So we have a sponsored membership program that provides assistance for those people who can't quite afford all of it or sometimes any of it. So that is an active program that we definitely are focused on. The cost of a single membership is $450 per year and $575 for a household that's 2 or more people, whoever live in that particular establishment. So Cheryl, one more. So let's talk a little bit about volunteering. So this is one of the big engines that helps drive Love Living at Home. Our volunteers provide the vast majority of our services and programs. So all of our committee members, our board are all volunteers. And we also have member volunteers and we have community volunteers. So members are not required to volunteer, but I think those who are members and volunteer get more out of their membership than they would if they didn't do the volunteer part. And it doesn't have to be extensive. Some people can volunteer a lot and some people can't volunteer very much, but they do as their time allows and as they want to. So we don't have a requirement. We don't say that, you have to do 5 hours of service every week, blah, blah, blah. It's when you're available, if you're available, you can volunteer. Studies have shown that volunteering actually is healthier for the volunteer. So there are health benefits by just doing some volunteer work. And the bottom line is the volunteer member connection is building a community, which is what we have with Love Living at Home. We have a community of people, members and volunteers who have connected to make the life of our members easier as time goes on. So before we get to questions and answers, what I'd like to do is to, Cheryl, if you could show one more slideshow, a video, it's actually a video, to wrap up, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Wow, look at this. 94% of people believe company culture is important to an organization's success.
Take advantage of, but we want them to be here because we know they're important and
There we go.
thinking about the donations that we make monetarily and the time involved in other volunteer opportunities we have. And I realized that we donate to all sorts of organizations in the community that we don't take advantage of, but we want them to be here because we know they're important. And that could be Meals on Wheels or a food pantry. But here, Love Living at Home gives us an opportunity to donate money and time to an organization that we get to use. That's a real plus.
Being part of Love Living at Home, that's been actually very helpful for me. I have a full-time job and I have a young child. So it's been, it would have been very hard for me if I had to take a lot of time off to especially take my dad to the various appointments. So being able to, and the biggest help, I think, is also the peace of mind. As I said, you know, the biggest need my dad has needed has been the transportation need. You know, we can call a cab, but it wouldn't be the same. Just knowing there's someone who will make sure he gets to places safely, it's really important, and it's helped me a lot to not have to worry about that.
What I've realized about Love Living at Home is that people get different things out of it. They have different reasons for joining and different reasons for staying in. I've ended up being sort of the dog lady. I was last week, I didn't tell you this because I haven't seen you. I walked somebody's beagle for 2 days because she had pneumonia. And it was an adorable little dog and she was so grateful. And, you know, I hadn't really ever chatted with her before. And, you know, who would have thought, you know, that would be something I'd end up doing, but it was, so that's what I'm getting out of it. I'm meeting people one-on-one and their dogs too.
It's a really warm organization. The interactions has been incredible. And I guess I just really appreciated Elena and all the volunteers. Great.
Little things that you don't think about that we offer as services are useful to people of all different ages. You know, maybe somebody.
Where's the off button, Cheryl?
Oh, kidding. Goodness.
Okay, so again, thanks for having us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Jim,
I'd ask a question.
I think one of the most important and effective facets of your program is getting together people with events and activities, because it's that interaction among people that makes life better and minimizes the effects that shorten lives. Second comment I have is I found it a little bit ironic that you show Jim and Leslie Quest, who are new arrivals here at Kendall.
Yes, they are. I know, I helped them move. Another benefit of Love Living at Home.
Could I ask, I noticed that you haven't listed anything about meals, and sometimes people run into acute needs for meals. Sometimes their needs are long-term. Do you do anything in that area?
Yes, if you do find yourself in the need for meals, short-term, I would say, you know, the 4 to 6, 8 week range, we do have a group of volunteers where we can set up a meal train for you. So you could let me know what your dietary restrictions might be, foods that you do enjoy, and we can work out a schedule to have home cooked meals delivered to you.
And we also, if I could interrupt, we also are on Thanksgiving. Members can sign up for a Thanksgiving dinner. Then it's going to be prepared by Wegmans. We are going to pick them up and deliver them to member homes, those people who sign up, because a lot of people don't drive anymore. So we do that on a sign up kind of basis.
Could I ask how extensive a service can you provide to the situation of a elderly person who's taken care of by their daughter usually, but the daughter needs to go away, either for their own mental health or obligatory. They have to go away for maybe a week or something. What kind of things can you do for that type of sort of respite care?
So what I typically do in those situations is ask the person, what is it that they need while that person is in a respite? Are they meals? That is something that we can obviously do. The transportation, we can obviously do check-in phone calls 2 or 3 times a day or once a week, whatever is needed for things like that. The things that we don't do is we're not going to be able to come into your home and help the person get showered or dressed. That is something that we do not do, but that is something that is offered in Tompkins County, where we can help assist with getting those types of services set up for the mother or the father. But there's a lot of different things that we can assist with for that.
Yeah, we could do grocery shopping. We could go to the pharmacy, pick up medications, those logistical kind of things.
How many members do you have locally?
200.
Yeah, we've grown by about 12% a year since we opened.
Let me ask, well, what is the split between members who are service needers versus service providers?
I would say it's not quite half of our members, a little less than half, who have used a service, and that could just be one service for the year. If you want to talk about what might be a person who would be considered a high utilizer or someone who uses a service 1 or more a week, I would say we might have 8 members that would fall into that category.
So you've got room for folks like me that might need help, eh?
Sure.
And you don't need any help.
What are the geographical limits? How far out from the city, for instance?
Yeah, all of Tompkins County.
Got it. Okay, good.
And we have members spread out all, through Trumansburg, Ithaca, Dryden, Danby, it's there are some people who live out a ways.
We have someone, yeah, we have someone who lives out Connecticut Hill, Enfield, Dryden. Yeah.
Got it.
I'm curious how you manage your transportation for appointments, because sometimes appointments can be fairly clear. Somebody goes to a piano lesson for 45 minutes, you know exactly pretty much when it starts and when it ends. But sometimes you go to a doctor's office and you don't know exactly how long you're going to be there. So how do you do that, and how does that work out?
So we have extremely wonderful volunteers, including Jim and Hank here on the call. So basically, people will let us know within 48 hours of when they need a transportation. And then we try to find a volunteer that has that time commitment open, that is available to do that. If a volunteer, the volunteers typically know doctor's appointments could be 20 minutes or they could be an hour and a half. So if the person is able to either wait, or maybe they have their own grocery shopping or errands that they need to do, they can go do them and come back. The other option is also the volunteer is able to say, I can take this person to their appointment, but I can't take them home. And that's okay, because then we'll just find a volunteer who would be available within that possible time frame to be able to get that person home.
I got a question. What about expanding out of Tompkins County? Like, let's say Schuyler County, because that's where I live.
That is something that we have looked at from time to time. I will say at this point, we are going through our strategic planning right now in the organization to kind of plan out our next several years of operations. And that is something that we've thought about looking into is, do we want to have more of the hub and spoke model? Which would mean we might have Love Living at Homes in other counties, you know, in Schuyler or in other cities, whether it be maybe Syracuse or Elmira and Watkins Glen or Aurora or where have you. But right now we do not serve folks outside of the county. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But I will say, if there are services and things that you're interested in trying to learn about in your own area, you can call or email me and we can look and see what other services that might be around you that might be able to help you. We don't just say we won't absolutely not help you, but we'll see what other resources where you live that might be able to help.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you compare and contrast your services with those of the Office for the Aging?
Yes, Office of the Aging, I have felt is more of like a referral service. So if you do need transportation, they will probably refer you to Gadabout. If you all are familiar with Gadabout, they may also refer you to Love Living at Home. Their infrastructure is a bit different than ours. So we will do more, I don't want to say we don't do hands-on service, but what we do is, you know, the check-in phone calls, and we'll actually do the transportation services. And we offer programs. So we do things much differently than County Office of the Aging, but we do work with them.
The Office for the Aging is very supportive of what we're doing. Okay, if there are no other questions, again, thank you very much for allowing us to be part of your meeting.
Well,
David,
thank
did
you,
you have a
Cheryl and Jim.
Thank you. Wonderful. Good, good, good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions at all?